private sector to those positive changes in the regulatory environment, I think would be really, really good. Stay the course on gradual fiscal consolidation, coordinating with monetary policy, and continue the strong support to the most vulnerable and those that are struggling to meet their basic needs. I think these three buckets, growth enhancing, fiscal consolidation, and support to vulnerable groups, I think is a really sound and sensible strategy that I've seen the Philippines trying to implement. Now, for growth enhancing reforms, I would like to insist on the importance of reducing bureaucratic and regulatory bottlenecks to investment. A big share of private investment is actually delayed or postponed because of bureaucratic red tape and hurdles. This is not unique to the Philippines, and it seems to me that everywhere I go, when I travel to Thailand and when I travel to Malaysia, this is it has remained over the last several years working in these countries. This is very central. In those countries too, that is considered as a big bottleneck to private investment growth, and it seems that it doesn't really matter which country we're talking about, but close to 50% or 60% of private investment is actually blocked or delayed because of bureaucratic hurdles and bureaucratic inefficiency in many countries in this region. So, and this year it is very critical to get the budget spent, to get investment deployed rapidly, so that growth will be supported. So I think that will be really important to pay attention to. And for companies, I think some scenario planning and diversification seem to be very critical to stay strong. So let me stop here. Thank you very much for your kind attention, and happy to take any question going forward. Thank you.
Thank you for your analysis and recommendations, Dr. Ndiame. We hope you'll be able to stay online to be able to answer questions. In the next segment, we do invite the Manila Times columnist Ben Kritz to come on stage to lead the first question and answer segment of our program. We also call back on stage George Royeca, Attorney Charina, and Ragnar Gudmundsson to be able to field questions from Ben, and perhaps we have time for some questions from the audience as well. Dr. Ndiame, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Ben Kritz mentioned that he has an immediate question for you as our guests make themselves comfortable on stage. Ben, go ahead.
Okay, is this thing on? Hi, Doc. It's been a while since we last talked. Since you're on the other side of the ocean and a connection is, a connection, I want to ask you a couple of things real quick. With the timing of interest rate easing here, being kind of dependent on the U.S. However, it doesn't seem like there's much incentive for the U.S. to do easing anytime soon, which may leave countries like the Philippines between a rock and a hard place. Is that kind of the situation? And would it ever get to a point where the Philippines should just kind of hold its nose and jump? That's the first question I have. And the second question, something that you said towards the end that jumped at me, is the issue of red tape, which has been a constant and is a factor in other countries. Here in particular, this is always, I've been here in 4 administrations, and it's always been said to be a priority. We're going to reduce red tape. We're going to, take care of this, make smooth business processes and everything, and we're still having this conversation. So what is your suggestion?
Thank you very much, Ben. Two very good questions. On the first one, I think the odds are tilting toward seeing the Fed ease at some point during the year. So, and at least that's what consensus forecast, if you want, is saying. Because if you look at the inflation trajectory, it is really going toward, it's pointing to really the possible easing sometimes, perhaps in the middle of the year. The key question really is the data coming out on the labor market side in the next coming months, because we see those data every month, and they have been really very strong. So, from a central bank perspective, I think it's really the sort of fear is that if the labor market is strong and you're easing, you may have some overheating, and that could fuel inflation expectations, and then the wage price spiral could go upward, which would actually basically signify a rebound in inflation. Now, your question is really a difficult one, and maybe you should ask that question to our friends at BNM, whether at some point the waiting game would be too long for central banks like the one in the Philippines to just go ahead and then start easing. Now there they need to really calculate the risk of doing so, because the differential interest rate between the US and the Philippines is a key variable in determining flows of capital. Right now, if you look at capital outflows from the region, it's less in the Philippines, but in Thailand and Malaysia, that's a key area of concern. So I think that's a factor in the calculation of the central bank. And as you know, pressure on the currency will feed back to inflation, because if the pesos depreciates, it will fuel inflation. And my sense is that the authorities in the Philippines are very keen in keeping inflation low. So that's there may be a preference for high interest rate for longer over slightly lower interest rate, with the risk of seeing inflation increasing and the pesos under pressure. Now, on your second question, it's been there for a while. We've been talking about red tape and improving bureaucratic efficiency for a long time. Now, I think in the Philippines, I see two things that could help. Right? One is really finally to get the LGUs on board on this. Because if you look at the difficulties of progressing in this area in the Philippines, a big part is really due to the fact that we have many LGUs, and LGUs have their own bureaucratic regulations and procedures, and investors have to really deal with all of that. So I think getting the LGUs on board and coming up with a sort of one-stop shop that allows for harmonizing LGUs regulations, etc. Finding a way to get them to streamline also, I think, is really critical. The second key element that I see, which is a bit new in the Philippines, relative to pre-pandemic is really digitalization. I think the excitement about digitalization is partly driven by the hope that if you digitally transform the bureaucracy and you digitally transform the government, things will be more efficient, or service delivery will be much more efficient. It will be more transparent and less subject to discretion by service providers. So I think those two levers are really important, and I'm very encouraged to see the government of the Philippines really emphasizing both of them, in particular the digital one, where we're seeing really a very, very big push. I think where I see more effort needed is on the LGU side, but that's a very complicated equation, and frankly, it requires a major effort to really get to this to what is needed there. So let me stop here.
Okay, well, I don't know if you could see it, but you had a whole room of people nodding their heads in agreement when you mentioned the LGUs, I think. But that's a big challenge. I really thank you for joining us, through the miracle of technology, and I'll let you go for now. And I have a few questions for our speakers here, but it was great to hear from you, and we hope to speak again soon. Now,
Thank you very much for having me again. Take care.
Thank you. Okay, ladies first. A couple of things that stood out to me in your presentation. The main thing the main thing that I noticed, you talked about the enhancing lending to MSMEs in the ag sector, and working out a mobile asset kind of program. This is again, just as like with the red tape, this has been an area that the country's been wrangling with for a long time. Sufficient access to credit, but particularly for the ag sector, but of course, that would also include MSMEs. So how do you go about convincing the banks who are going to actually have to write these checks, to go along with your vision, because it hasn't been worked so well so far.
Yes, thank you for that question. So for this initiative of movable asset finance, we are hoping that having a new framework, legal framework for this would at least make a push, and since there's already a legal mandate for that, so the banks would have to, or the financial institutions would have to at least recognize that requirement under the legal framework that we have. But of course, we do need to coordinate with them. So that's why we usually work closely with the financial industry, so that whatever proposals or initiatives that we have to provide more access to credit for the MSMEs and the agri sector would be at least there would be an acceptance also on their part, so that they can support the programs that we have. But it is, I understand, a work in progress, and in some cases we do provide some regulatory reliefs for the financial institutions, so that they will be onboarded and have they would be encouraged to take part in these initiatives of the BSP, so that, and also of course the vision that we have, we always say that we need to do this hand in hand with the financial sector and not just the government initiative. So that's the usual messaging that we want to share with the financial industry, so that we will get more support from them, aside from, of course, getting their inputs on how to move forward with this new initiatives in terms of providing greater access to the MSMEs and the agri sector.
Okay, and then this is kind of a quick combo here because I was also fielding some questions from some other people. But I'm curious, how far along is the Palang QR program, and can this be used to increase the uptake of digital payment systems, particularly in the provinces where a lot of small businesses, little stores, restaurants, you name it, there's a lot of cash in business that goes on there. Those of us that are here in the metropolis that are used to not carrying around money, that we take our vacation or whatever, and whoops, we have to remember to find cash. So is the Plink QR program going to also help that? Can it be even expanded, beyond just Palenques and things like that? And how far along is that? How long is that going to take?
Okay, for the Palenque RPH, actually, yes, the vision and the aim for that project is really to expand the use of digital payments in the rural areas. So that's why we started. It's actually not just for the marketplaces or the palenques. We also would like to involve the tricycle drivers. And as I've mentioned, it's in partnership with the Department of Interior and Local Government. And also, of course, we need the support of the LGU. So we are working closely with the LGUs on this so that more and more merchants, the MSMEs and the market vendors, as well as those in the transportation sector would also be onboarded and participate in this program of Palenque RPH. So we are hoping, we're not stopping anytime soon. We will be doing this for 2024. We hope to engage more LGUs, especially in the provinces, so that this will be rolled out, not just, but the Palenque QR is mostly focused on the palenque or the markets, but we are looking at other merchants who would be able to participate in this program, because we know that we really need to expand the use of digital payments, especially in the rural areas. But one thing we have to improve on as well is, of course, the connectivity issue, because even though you have the smartphone and you have the accounts, the e-money accounts, but if connectivity is an issue, that would of course be a barrier again to the expansion of the program. So what we are doing at the BSP under the National Financial Inclusion strategy is to, of course, also get in touch and coordinate with the other members of the committee, which would include DICT, so that we can work on the connectivity issues. So that's part of the strategy as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You talked about the impact of China and how China and of course it's not just IMF. Generally most forecasts and analyses put some weight on that. I was just curious. China just announced, I think within the last day or so, a change in the mortgage interest rate to kind of try to kickstart their property sector. Is that gonna change the outlook any, or how long might that take before it would have an effect? That's my first question. And you also talked about the FATF gray list, which that's a subject that has come up recently here in the news. So it is a concern for the government. What areas do you think should be prioritized in that? Where are the problems that still need to be solved?
Okay, thanks very much. These are two good, difficult questions. So first of all, on China, I think the sense is that overall China is moving to a new phase in its economic history, where we may be moving away from the very high growth rates of the last 2 decades to, let's say, more subdued growth rates closer to 5% over the medium term. And this is in part because there are dynamics at play, such as the growth of the middle class and the move towards the need to increase productivity. This is a big challenge for the Chinese economy. How do you accelerate productivity gains in order to support the strong growth dynamics? So that's one challenge. Another challenge is, of course, population aging, because this will put some stress on labor costs, but also on such social protection systems. So that's another challenge. And I think then, as you mentioned, the real estate sector, we've seen very fast growth rates in the real estate sector in China in recent years. This is a big part of the growth story in China. So, the measures taken by the authorities to try and stimulate the sector and to reassure households are very important, but we'll have to wait and see if these efforts bear fruit. We know that some real estate developers have come under significant financial strains, as we saw from recent news in Hong Kong. So the jury is still very much out as to how quickly China will be able to emerge from this real estate crisis. What is encouraging is that the government in China, in part as in response to the concerns in the real estate sector, and in response to the disinflationary trends in China taking place now, is that they've announced stimulus packages. So these should help sustain the growth dynamics in China. But I think there's another dimension which I referred to at the start of my presentation, which will affect not only growth dynamics in China, but more globally. That's geopolitical tensions and geoeconomic fragmentation. And China, of course, will be impacted by those tensions. And it's not only China, it's the large G20 emerging market economies that are being affected by geopolitical fragmentation. And this is very important globally because the large emerging market G20 economies, now they represent about 30% of total global output and 25% of trade flows. And so these economies, including many economies here in the region, have a very important role in global value chains, and there are risks of spillovers from geopolitical fragmentation. And this is why, in our opinion, it's very important to make sure that we get back on track with multilateral cooperation. And because this is the key way in which the global, the international financial community can contribute to the provision of vital global public goods. So the signs are worrying because we're seeing the term industrial policy is coming back into fashion. And in the 1970s, industrial policy, that was more a message coming from developing or low-income countries. But now that message is coming from advanced economies. And so this is something that we need to, I think, be very mindful of. And we have, I think, to continue advocating for multilateral solutions to the problems we're currently facing. On the FATF grey list, I think really the focus needs to be on increasing risk-based supervision of some sectors, including junket operators, the gaming industry. That's one important priority. Another priority is the prosecution of cases. I think that's where the FATF will be kind of waiting to see important cases being brought to trial. And I think so prosecution is something that the FATF is looking at right now. Another important area is access to beneficial ownership information and the sharing of information between various government agencies in order to facilitate investigations. I think these are maybe the three big priority areas where further efforts are needed in order to be removed from the list.
Okay, all right, well, thank you for that. And last but certainly not least, George, I got a couple of, I have a bunch of questions for you because you brought up a very good point with the changing of mindset, with how transportation is designed and even conceived here in the Philippines. And I'm just wondering, do you have any suggestions for that? Because, we're here in this country, everything is so irregular. And that's what people are used to. You don't catch a bus at a certain time. You walk out to the highway and stick your arm up. Same with the jeepney. Same with catching a tricycle. With services like yours, call when you want it. How do you change that mindset? And then a question that actually Ms. Blanca passed along to me that I hadn't thought of, so I appreciate that. You did mention the initiative of the president to legalize the motorcycle taxis and straighten up the regulations on the TVNS, and just wondering what do you, is there anything you can do, or what are you doing to kind of prod that process along, because I think that's needed. How does President Marcos working with Grab, does that affect your plans for the ANCARs any? Is that still, is that still going full speed ahead? What do you think?
First of all, thank you for the plug, Ben. I'd like to answer the first question. It's really, I'm an entrepreneur. So basically, when you tell me about a program, I always try to operationalize it in my head, right? And at the end of the day, it's really about addressing pain points. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that the current behavior of people that just go out and walk out the street, they don't just stick their hand out. Actually, they wait in long queue lines in the informal terminal. That is the pain point. They don't have to say it, but they want to get rid of that, right? So it's always going back to what we're currently experiencing and how we can improve that experience. I'll give you an example. When we talk about the red tape that you were discussing earlier with Njame, and he was talking about digitalization. So digitalization is a big word, especially in the LGUs. But what are you actually digitalizing, right? Now, what is the biggest pain point of the LGUs? It's not so much as processing the documentation, it's actually getting the documentation correct. So a lot of it has to do with people outside of the LGU. In fact, a lot of LGUs have this caveat that I will process your documents in X days, but when you submit complete documentation. So there are already existing artificial intelligence right now that can go through documents without human intervention. And also, a lot of these documentations in many LGUs are also handwritten. They're not typed. There is, a lot of people frown upon fixers, but they actually fill in a need. And majority of what the fixers actually do is make sure that your documentation is correct. So this is one part of the digitalization program, which is digitizing those documentation that can actually cut these timelines from the bureaucratic standpoint. It really lessens bureaucracy. So you really got to focus on going back to your customer. What is the customer experiencing, and how can you improve that experience? And really try to stay away from big buzzwords, because at the end of the day, technology is a tool, but if you do not use the tool properly, or you're not solving an actual issue, then technology is pretty useless. And really, at the end of the day, it's technology, process, and people, right? We are a community, we're a society, and the mindset of this transportation, every single Filipino, and I'll make a bet with you, every single Filipino that goes abroad, right, and comes back here and talks about, waiting in train stations, talks about waiting in bus stations, will have a different want on transportation. We have a completely different mindset of transportation. They don't know that they want it, but we all do, and especially the people that are in this forum right now have traveled abroad, and we all know what's right for Filipinos. And this is something that can easily be done. And when I say easy, I don't mean it's going to be quick. It is a difficult process in the sense that there's a lot of different components, but this is something that's been done time and time again for decades. And this is something that we can do. Now, to the second question, I hope I answered that question in terms of changing the mindset, right? You just got to show them, and the mindset will change. Like just my tricycle drivers, my motorcycle drivers, they used to be tricycle drivers. They couldn't, for the life of them, even operate a cell phone just to make calls. They couldn't do it. But when given an economic incentive, they learned how to use a smartphone. Now they're doing banking transactions with GCash, with their online banks in their cell phone. Apart from many, many other things that they do online, like watch YouTube and have their own form of consume entertainment. So the economic incentive drives that behavior, but it's got to fit. We got to be very, very, laser focused on what we're actually trying to solve. Like my example in the PUB modernization. Will having a nicer car really solve the pain points of commuters and drivers? The fast answer is no. Now, will having a nicer car and a better engine support the environment? For sure. Do commuters and drivers at this stage care when they can't put food on the table? So these are the realities on the ground that you really need to be thinking about. And definitely, ultimately, we do want to solve the environmental issues, but you got to solve the human issues first, which is very pressing and urgent. Now, with the call of the president for legalization and better and more efficient regulation for the sector, I really echo that, and I'm glad that it is in the president's headspace. Companies like Grab can help really amplify that call. I mean, I've been doing it for 8 years by myself, and I'm glad that somebody else has come in to kind of help, relay that more and more. So the more people are talking about it, the more companies are pushing that advocacy, I think the better it is for everyone. And Philippines is a big place. There are 8 million cars in the entire country. 50% of all cars is in Metro Manila. We have 7,000 islands in the Philippines, and 50% of all four-wheel vehicles is in one island, which is why we have a congestion issue here. But it's not just a traffic congestion issue because of roads. It's a congestion issue because everybody keeps going to Metro Manila for economic progress, development. Everyone just looks at the capital. If you do not go outside of the country, you will never solve congestion in the Philippines. The only way to do that is create economic commerce or economic activity outside of Metro Manila. And you will see that many, many people would actually want to stay outside of Metro Manila, and naturally this city will decongest. And I think this is a different approach, right? You gotta look at it again, going back to the customer's pain point. Again, I'm an entrepreneur. At the end of the day, the most important boss for me is the customer.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you know this, but there's an entire conference of vice mayors next door who would totally agree with what you just said about decongesting Metro Manila. I think that's probably about all the time we have.
Yes, thank you, Ben. We invite all of you to remain on stage as we ask Circlink to join you, and our President and Chief Operating Officer, or CEO, Ms. Blanca Calilong Mercado. So this concludes the first of our question and answer segments. So Sir Klink and Ms. Blanca are truly grateful for your being with us today, George, Attorney Charina, and Ragnar, and of course, Dr. Ndiame. So we hope these plaques of appreciation and these tokens of expressions of our gratitude for the time that you spent with us. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. Thank you, ANCA CEO George, BSP Managing Director Charina, IMF Resident Representative Ragnar, and World Bank Country Director Dr. Ndiame. So our next two talks will resume at 1 p.m. We will have our second question and answer segment after that at around 1:40 p.m. In the meantime, let us save our lunch courtesy of Sheraton Manila Hotel. Bon appetit, everyone.
Here at Aboitiz Power, we greatly respect the value and importance of the environment. Cleanergy, our brand for renewable energy sources, has become a significant part of our operations, and we continue to be on the lookout for opportunities in the renewable energy space while seeking ways to preserve and enrich the environment. We've long since recognized the incredible potential for kindness, compassion, and community in the millions of lives we've touched over our centuries-long journey. We take great pride in the care and service we provide to these people. To see their communities thriving is our greatest joy and success. Aboitiz Power, driving change for a better world.
Mega World Hotels and Resorts is the largest hospitality chain in the Philippines. Each of its 6 diverse brands offer a distinct personality to cater to the needs of today's savvy traveler, whatever their purpose for travel may be. With a promise of enriching the travel experiences of its guests, Mega World Hotels and Resorts celebrates a unique culture of service excellence, fueled by warm and heartfelt service that Filipinos are best known for. Committed to providing every guest with unparalleled hospitality, the brand continues to innovate, curating meaningful experiences, building relationships, and inspiring travels while offering you the joys of being home. Mega World Hotels and Resorts. Our heart, your home.
Sign up for a year for only 80 pesos per month. Visit tmt.ph/premium to get your free trial of the Manila Times Premium.
Always advancing. Always transforming. The world moves fast. BDO finds ways to move with the changing times. Always thinking ahead, ensuring that your financial needs are met. Whenever, wherever. Always leading the way, investing in tomorrow, and creating a sustainable future. Always the way forward. BDO, we find ways.
Wow, immortal? Sa movies lang yan. Kaya dapat handa ka. Protect them with BDO Life Insurance. Convenient. Ang dali lang dahil ikaw ang superhero ng buhay nila. Get a Plan B with BDO Life.
A Boyd is Power has been driving change for a better world. It's been a long and challenging road, but with every step forward, we've made sure the businesses and communities we serve have been able to grow and flourish. We envision a world where vibrant communities have built their homes and businesses in a thriving environment. To make that world a reality, we are committed to serving the people by providing a reliable power supply at a reasonable and competitive price, while taking on the responsibility for the growth, wellness, and prosperity of the environment and the many communities that rely on us. Over the many decades we've been around, we've watched the world shift and change, and our success to this point has come, in part, from our constant desire to grow and innovate. The adoption of newer, more efficient, and more effective technologies in the name of progress is a part of who we are and why we're here to stay. Here at Aboitiz Power, we greatly respect the value and importance of the environment. Cleanergy, our brand for renewable energy sources, has become a significant part of our operations, and we continue to be on the lookout for opportunities in the renewable energy space while seeking ways to preserve and enrich the environment. We've long since recognized the incredible potential for kindness, compassion, and community in the millions of lives we've touched over our centuries-long journey. We take great pride in the care and service we provide to these people. To see their communities thriving is our greatest joy and success. Aboitiz Power, driving change for a better world.
Mega World Hotels and Resorts is the largest hospitality chain in the Philippines. Each of its 6 diverse brands offer a distinct personality to cater to the needs of today's savvy traveler, whatever their purpose for travel may be. With a promise of enriching the travel experiences of its guests, Mega World Hotels and Resorts celebrates a unique culture of service excellence, fueled by warm and heartfelt service that Filipinos are best known for. Committed to providing every guest with unparalleled hospitality, the brand continues to innovate, curating meaningful experiences, building relationships, and inspiring travels while offering you the joys of being home. Mega World Hotels and Resorts. Our heart, your home.
Sign up for a year for only 80 pesos per month. Visit tmt.ph/premium to get your free trial of the Manila Times Premium.
Always advancing. Always transforming. The world moves fast. BDO finds ways to move with the changing times. Always thinking ahead, ensuring that your financial needs are met. Whenever, wherever. Always leading the way, investing in tomorrow, and creating a sustainable future. Always the way forward. BDO, we find ways.
Wow, immortal? Sa movies lang yan, kaya dapat handa ka. Protect them with BDO Life Insurance. Convenient, ang dali lang dahil ikaw ang superhero ng buhay nila. Get a Plan B with BDO Life.
A Boyd is Power has been driving change for a better world. It's been a long and challenging road, but with every step forward, we've made sure the businesses and communities we serve have been able to grow and flourish. We envision a world where vibrant communities have built their homes and businesses in a thriving environment. To make that world a reality, we are committed to serving the people by providing a reliable power supply at a reasonable and competitive price, while taking on the responsibility for the growth, wellness, and prosperity of the environment and the many communities that rely on us. Over the many decades we've been around, we've watched the world shift and change, and our success to this point has come, in part, from our constant desire to grow and innovate. The adoption of newer, more efficient, and more effective technologies in the name of progress is a part of who we are and why we're here to stay. Here at Aboitiz Power, we greatly respect the value and importance of the environment. Cleanergy, our brand for renewable energy sources, has become a significant part of our operations, and we continue to be on the lookout for opportunities in the renewable energy space while seeking ways to preserve and enrich the environment. We've long since recognized the incredible potential for kindness, compassion, and community in the millions of lives we've touched over our centuries-long journey. We take great pride in the care and service we provide to these people. To see their communities thriving is our greatest joy and success. Aboitiz Power, driving change for a better world.
Mega World Hotels and Resorts is the largest hospitality chain in the Philippines. Each of its 6 diverse brands offer a distinct personality to cater to the needs of today's savvy traveler, whatever their purpose for travel may be. With the promise of enriching the travel experiences of its guests, Mega World Hotels and Resorts celebrates a unique culture of service excellence, fueled by warm and heartfelt service that Filipinos are best known for. Committed to providing every guest with unparalleled hospitality, the brand continues to innovate, curating meaningful experiences, building relationships, and inspiring travels while offering you the joys of being home. Mega World Hotels and Resorts. Our heart, your home.
always thinking ahead, ensuring that your financial needs are met. Whenever, wherever. Always leading the way, investing in tomorrow, and creating a sustainable future. Always the way forward. BDO, we find ways.
Wow, immortal? Sa movies lang yan, kaya dapat handa ka. Protect them with BDO Life Insurance. Convenient, ang dali lang dahil ikaw ang superhero ng buhay nila. Get a Plan B with BDO Life.
A Boy Is Power has been driving change for a better world. It's been a long and challenging road, but with every step forward, we've made sure the businesses and communities we serve have been able to grow and flourish. We envision a world where vibrant communities have built their homes and businesses in a thriving environment. To make that world a reality, we are committed to serving the people by providing a reliable power supply at a reasonable and competitive price, while taking on the responsibility for the growth, wellness, and prosperity of the environment and the many communities that rely on us. Over the many decades we've been around, we've watched the world shift and change, and our success to this point has come, in part, from our constant desire to grow and innovate. The adoption of newer, more efficient, and more effective technologies in the name of progress is a part of who we are and why we're here to stay. Here at Aboitiz Power, we greatly respect the value and importance of the environment. Cleanergy, our brand for renewable energy sources, has become a significant part of our operations, and we continue to be on the lookout for opportunities in the renewable energy space while seeking ways to preserve and enrich the environment. We've long since recognized the incredible potential for kindness, compassion, and community in the millions of lives we've touched over our centuries-long journey. We take great pride in the care and service we provide to these people. To see their communities thriving is our greatest joy and success. Aboitiz Power, driving change for a better world.
Welcome back to the Manila Times Economic Forum titled Insights 2024, Immersive and Generative Globalization. Our speaker for this afternoon has been on diplomatic post as head of the Economic and Trade section of the European Union delegation to Mexico, covering also Cuba, and to Thailand, covering also Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar. He joined the European Commission in 1995 and worked for its Directorate General for Trade in various positions in the Brussels headquarters and in European Union delegations abroad. And during his career in the Directorate General for Trade, he was deputy head of the units in charge of Latin America, North America, and the Middle East. He is currently the head of the Economic and Trade section of the European Union delegation to the Philippines. Ladies and gents, please give a round of applause for Philippe Dupuy.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So, dear Dante Ang, Chairman and CEO, Manila Times, dear Blanca Mercado, President CEO of Manila Times, esteemed co-speakers and panelists, esteemed audience, ladies and gentlemen, friends, good afternoon. So I'm the dessert today. I hope you don't fall asleep. Okay, so I would like to, first of all, of course, to thank the Manila Times for its invitation. It's an honor to speak at this economic forum in times of many changes and challenges for global trade. Now, I was asked to talk about the EU perspective on the Philippine economy potentials in the context of leveling the playing field for Philippine growth on international markets. Now, we already heard very distinguished speakers this morning, so I, of course, have to make an effort to complement what has been said. And I will take it very much from the EU perspective, the trade and the business perspective, because, of course, this is a little bit my own trade. Now, your event overview also mentioned other elements of interest from European perspective, not only the level playing field, but also economic security in the form of supply chain continuity. Chairman, we just had a brief discussion about this, and the expansion of bilateral agreements. Now, let me try to put this together from a EU perspective in 4 parts. First, a few words on level playing field, how I would understand that. Then I would like to speak about some recent developments in the context of trade and investment from a EU perspective, which I think has some relevance on how we see our economic relations also with the Philippines. Then we also, of course, I would like to touch on how we see the Philippines' economic potential, but this is where I have the danger to repeat what has already been said before, so probably I can shorten that a bit. And then, of course, on this background, also to conclude, I would like to talk about the evolution of the EU-Philippines economic relations. Now, on the question of the level playing field, to start with, the concept of level playing field is very complex. And it really depends, it's a matter of perspective. Now, from a classic trade policy perspective, leveling the playing field is, putting it very simplistically, about creating equal conditions for traders on international markets. Now, it is, of course, more complex than that. And as an exporter, you not only look for receiving the same trading conditions as operators from other countries on a given foreign market, you want to receive better preferences than your peers and ideally be treated the same way as local economic operators. So what in the jargon we call national treatment. Now, and this applies whether you export goods or services, invest abroad, or participate in procurement tenders. All this is the realm of trade agreements, of free trade agreements. But there is, from a perspective of the external economy, another wider aspect to leveling the playing field. An aspect which is more inward-looking and as important for generating growth and jobs. It is about the investment conditions and the capacity to attract foreign and domestic investment, also the domestic investment, needed to develop the economy and to create the conditions to be competitive on international markets. From that perspective, trade and investment are just 2 sides of the same medal. This is where the economy, domestic rules, the investment environment, and the ease of doing business come in. We heard it already this morning. And this is not so much a matter of trade agreements or trade negotiation. This is very much in the hands of domestic policymakers and domestic administrations. Now, my second block is about the recent developments in the context of trade investment from the EU perspective. In the last years, there have been important shifts in trade policy, and not only in the EU, moving us beyond the classic concepts of market access and beyond the border measures. First came up the quest for trade and sustainability, now a central pillar of all EU actions. Driven by the events of the last few years, economic security became an additional priority, influencing the thinking of policymakers and companies, again, not only in Europe. These shifts all influence the view on trade and on international markets, and these are shifts that need to be taken into account. On economic security, the year 2023 in Europe was overshadowed again by the Russian war of aggression against Ukraine. And in 3 days, we marked the 2nd anniversary of Russia's full invasion. In the 4th quarter last year, another conflict unfolded in our neighborhood, most recently spreading into the Red Sea and directly hitting again European supply chains. Starting with the COVID pandemic, this succession of crises has led to a fundamental rethinking of trade policies in Europe and beyond. De-risking, reduction of sourcing dependencies for essential inputs have become a priority for policymakers and for businesses. We have to draw on the lessons from the disruption of our supply chains, which came with these multiple crises, not only of intermediate goods and raw materials, but also of energy. We also learned that the economy is increasingly weaponized by some state actors. As a reaction, during 2023, the EU rolled out an economic security strategy to counter vulnerabilities that the pandemic, the war, the rise of political tensions, hostile economic actions, cyber and infrastructure attacks, as well as disinformation, have exposed. The strategy, besides promoting the competitiveness of the EU and protecting its security, also aims at openness and working with reliable partners through diversified and improved trade agreements. Thus, the EU in 2023 has intensified its openness efforts by concluding several new trade agreements and engaging in furthermore. Currently, the EU applies 42 FTAs with 78 countries worldwide. Not yet with the Philippines. Now, you will say, if the EU has FTAs with other countries, but not with the Philippines, there is no level playing field. However, it is for the moment not as bad as that, because the Philippines are still benefiting from GSP+. And I will come back to this. On sustainability, particularly the EU sustainability legislations, which are coming up, notably from the Green Deal. Operators placing products on the EU market, independently as to whether these products are domestic or foreign, are increasingly subject to new regulations, which also foresee that companies carry out sustainability due diligence along the supply chain. Even though these EU regulations are human rights, anti-corruption, climate or environmental regulations, they have an influence on how European operators look at their suppliers in Europe and abroad. Also, the companies are increasingly under public scrutiny regarding their business practices. All this together has an influence on where European companies choose to buy, invest, or participate. These are policy shifts that influence the behavior of the companies. From their perspective, there are also further developments which have to be taken into consideration besides supply chain security and sustainability. I would just name two. There is the advance of the knowledge economy. This makes items like skills, the movement of professionals, the protection of intellectual property rights, and cybersecurity even more important than they were already before. There's also a tendency to move closer to regional markets, clients, and customers, which makes the investment perspective even more important. All this means that there is an ongoing re-engineering of supply chains and hence of trade, and this puts the focus not only on microeconomic business parameters, the macroeconomic environment, and the availability of skills, but it also puts a spotlight on ease of doing business and investment climate. My third block, how we see the Philippine economic potential from Europe under the perspective of these developments. From the European Commission perspective, and in particular given the very optimistic future prospects for the Philippines, the significant economic potential, the size of the market, the wealth of resources, but also from an economic security perspective, which I just mentioned, it was inevitable that the EU would also look again closer at the Philippines. Indeed, the Philippines is a market of 115 million people, the second largest population in ASEAN. There's a growing middle class and an average age which is comparatively low. So the Philippines, contrary to many of its competitors, benefit from a demographic dividend. The population is English-speaking, which helps foreigners to navigate. Investors underline the quality of the Filipino workforce. The country has a wealth of natural resources and an enormous potential of renewable energy that could, if it reaches the right scale, lower energy costs and provide a secure supply of green energy. The government has liberalized key sectors and has engaged in a substantial program to upgrade the infrastructure. all this is seen. Furthermore, the country is one of the fastest growing economies in Asia, and the prospects are that it will remain at the top in the years to come. I guess you have heard all this morning already. Just to repeat, 5.6% plus in 2023, less maybe than the government had expected, but the highest in Southeast Asia. It's a long time since we have seen such growth rates in Europe. Thus, there are many positive things happening in the Philippines, and one could say much more, but you know all the good stories. However, and that's another aspect, these good stories have not yet translated into an increase of trade, at least trade in goods. Actually, the strong GDP growth is mainly driven by consumption. The external pillar does not contribute to the growth. Merchandise exports have actually dropped in 2023. This also counts for exports to the European Union. After growing back in 2022 to 10.8 billion euros, which is roughly the same in dollars, overtaking pre-pandemic levels, Philippine exports to the EU have leveled off in 2023 and dropped by a quarter between the first 3 months, 22 and 23. This being said, the EU remained the fourth trading partner of the Philippines worldwide. We do not have the figures for trade and services yet for 23, but my impression is that it fared much better. We see that the BPO business seems to be thriving, tourism is recovering, but also in view of the EU market, it remains far below the potential. So there's much more which could happen. But this is good, also considering that the service sector is really the dominant sector in employment in the country. Similarly to, let's say, this let's say a bit gloomy picture on exports, there are no significant increases in investment flows. Yes, the authorized investments have gone up significantly, also from Europe. And this is a very good sign, because it shows an increased interest in the Philippines. But this increase, if you look at it, is linked to a few projects in the renewable energy sector. And these authorized projects still need to materialize, and if they do, it will be over many years. It's still good news, but I think the key point here is that it's a liberalized sector, it's a sector which is in the green lane, so if the conditions are good, extra investments come in. It's, I think, the proof how how important the environment is. However, not so much is happening in other sectors from a EU perspective in terms of really net investment flows. Now then, of course, the next question is what causes the gap between, on the one hand, these very positive developments that we see, and on the other hand, the real business not following for the moment. Maybe there's a time lag. But, I mean, on trade, of course, there's the weakness of the world economy affecting exports. But there are also unused export potentials because of a lack of information, as we've seen with European GSP+. We're trying to work on it to inform exporters about the opportunities. But there's also a very narrow manufacturing basis in the Philippines. A little diversified export offer focused on electronics, fisheries, and food products, making this external pillar vulnerable. The export weakness is also linked to a lack of domestic and foreign investments in manufacturing services. And here the circle closes again. It seems, if I hear also entrepreneurs from the Philippines, that it's more attractive to import than to produce in the country. A second element is costs. The energy costs are still high, but there are enormous prospects here. This could really be, in our eyes, a game changer. The logistic costs are high. Why, for example, is it so much more expensive to ship between Manila and Cebu than between Manila and Singapore or Tokyo? I mean, there might be, some people say there's a lack of competition. Other factors, cybersecurity, then the accessibility to credit, and the inclusion in the FATF list, as we have heard earlier, also doesn't help because, of course, investors or potential investors see that. Now, all this cannot be the only reasons why EU investors stay away, because there's so many opportunities here, possibilities here, so many reasons to come to the Philippines. And this brings us to the transaction costs and to the ease of doing business. And we heard it already this morning. And I mean, what I will say here is repeating what we heard this morning. It's, of course, red tape, especially at the LGU level. I mean, it's all the questions of business permits, certification, licensing, customs, or how to deal with the right-of-way issues. Now, domestic companies may be able to navigate this, but foreigners are not. And I talked this morning to a manager of a European company and asked him, how are you? And he said, well, it's all slow, unforeseeable, and it's very difficult to plan, driving the costs up. And I think this is I think one key element. It's certain, legislating, controlling, enforcing, protecting the environment, protecting the people is of course a right and should be done. But the question is always where, the additional administrative step is less in the public interest and just has a minor value added. And I think this is where it could lie. Then there's another element. It's a bit delicate, but I think one needs to simply also talk about it. 3 weeks ago, another Transparency International Corruption Perception Index came out. And the Philippines are not placed on the top, in the top league there. That's also one element that investors look at, especially SMEs. And then there's a question of rule of law, due process in case of disputes, and the sanctity of contracts, something we also hear from the Philippine business, of course. Now, all this is not new, and we welcome and we're encouraged that there's a lot of awareness about this. There is significant action from the current government that has been taken up, and we see things are moving ahead. And if this is really complemented, I think it will come, business will come in, and we already see the interest, the renewed interest in the Philippines with all the developments. And that leads me to my last point, the EU-Philippine economic relations on that background. So first point, in 2023, we rolled over for another 4 years the existing GSP Plus regulation, which was set to expire end of last year. What this means is that all countries covered, including the Philippines, will continue for several more years to benefit from zero tariffs or considerably reduced tariffs. This is good news. Now coming back also to the concept of level playing field, this actually creates a competitive advantage for the Philippines on the EU market. However, the GSP Plus advantages will not last forever. And the reason is actually a good one. It's because the Philippines aspire to become an upper middle income country. But then this puts the country out of the countries which are qualified for GSP Plus. So this would speak for having an FTA between the Philippines and the European Union. Now this comes with my second point. European Commission President von der Leyen visited the Philippines last end of July to meet President Marcos. Also because, again, the EU is looking to diversify its markets and its supplies with like-minded countries. This visit brought a new forward-looking momentum to our relationship in general and our economic relationship in particular. On the economic side, the meeting brought about important results. Besides opening perspectives for cooperation on raw materials and the digital connectivity, the most important decision of both presidents was to launch a stock-taking exercise in view of assessing the possibilities of taking up the FTA negotiations between the Philippines and the European Union again. Since the negotiation paused in 2017, the policy framework on both sides has evolved. So we from both sides thought that the stock-taking was necessary and useful. We wanted to see whether it's possible not only to restart the negotiation, but also to bring such a negotiation to a successful end for both sides within a reasonable amount of time. Now, we had the stock-taking meetings at the technical level in the fourth quarter, 2023. And the results are currently assessed by our principals on both sides. So we hope that we will be able to say more soon and see where the decision goes towards taking up that negotiation again, or whether we will continue on the GSP track. So, to conclude, in my view, leveling the playing field for growth is not only concerning the conditions that Philippine exports encounter in other markets, it's also how to become a competitive destination for investments. For the EU, the Philippines, as a like-minded country, has a lot to offer. Not least, it is an economy with significant prospects, a large market, but there's some challenges for this that need to be addressed. For the Philippines, the EU represents a market of 450 million users, as well as consumers with high purchasing power, stable markets, and a stable legal environment. However, the challenge is that Philippines have not made full use of the export opportunities that they already have. Leveling the playing field for growth is good, but in the end, the business will decide where it goes, not us as the regulators. Thank you very much for your interest.
Thank you, Philip, for sharing the EU's economic security perspective. We will be welcoming you back on stage for our second question and answer segment, right after a message from the Department of Budget and Management. As was mentioned earlier by Sir Klink, our speaker had to be called away for a meeting at Malacanang, but she did provide a message for us. So she is the lone female member of the Marcos administration's economic team and the first Muslim woman to lead the Department of Budget and Management. She also champions financial inclusion, open government partnership for fiscal transparency, climate change, and green public procurement. Ladies and gents, it is my pleasure to introduce a message, or preface a message, from DBM Secretary Amena Mina Pangandaman.
To the distinguished leaders and members of the business and development community, our friends from the media, and to all participants of this Economic Outlook Forum, a pleasant day to everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First, I would like to express my sincerest gratitude to the Manila Times for inviting the Department of Budget and Management to be part of this landmark forum that aims to delve into the strategies and trends that shape the country's economic landscape on the global stage. I am eager to provide you with updates in the trajectory of the Philippine economy, which, as part of the economic team, I am proud to say has become one of the fastest growing in Southeast Asia. Attesting to this, the Philippine economy expanded by 5.6% in 2023, outpacing China, Vietnam, and Malaysia. This much and even exceeded the forecasts of multilateral organizations and private analysts such as the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and the ASEAN Plus 3 Macroeconomic Research Office. Despite anticipated global uncertainties, this gives us confidence that the Philippine economy can rise above the tide and still achieve the government's growth targets over the medium term. We have also recorded the lowest unemployment rate for nearly 2 decades, which registered at 3.1% in December 2023, translating to 617,000 fewer unemployed individuals compared to 2022. The quality of jobs also improved, with the underemployment rate dropping to 11.9%, corresponding to 186,000 fewer underemployed persons. We are determined to continuously provide more high-quality jobs and green jobs by attracting more job-generating investments and by enhancing the ease of doing business in the country. While sustaining the country's high growth trajectory and favorable labor outcomes, we will also relentlessly manage inflation. In fact, the country recently reached the lowest recorded inflation rate since October 2020, which stood at 2.8% in January 2024. This is significantly lower than the 8.7% rate in the same month last year and from 3.9% in December. To ensure that inflation will remain within the government's target band of 2 to 4%, we will implement strategies under the Reduce Emerging Inflation Now plan. We also stand ready to address the impact of the looming El Niño phenomenon that is expected to persist until May and affect food prices. As such, just last month, we reactivated and reconstituted the Task Force El Niño through Executive Order Number 53, which shall accelerate the implementation of the Strategic El Niño National Action Plan, a comprehensive disaster preparedness and rehabilitation plan for the El Niño phenomenon. On the fiscal front, we remain on strong footing guided by the medium-term fiscal framework. As of November 2023, total revenues inched up to 3.56 trillion pesos, while government spending also accelerated, increasing by 3.6% at 4.68 trillion pesos. As a result, the budget deficit reached 1.11 trillion pesos, 10.1% lower compared to the November 2022 level. On the medium term, the government shall also prioritize improving tax administration, efficiency, and work closely with Congress for the passage of tax reforms that promote fiscal sustainability and support economic development. This includes reforms that are expected to generate substantial incremental revenues from 2024 to 2028, such as Package 4 of the Comprehensive Tax Reform Program, rationalization of the mining fiscal regime, reform on the motor vehicles users charge, value-added tax on digital service providers, and excise tax on single-use plastics. On top of the refined revenue-generating measures, the government shall also improve the national government's spending efficiency by ensuring the timely implementation of priority programs and projects under the fiscal year 2024 national budget and ultimately contribute to securing a future-proof and sustainable economy. The national budget for this year amounts to 5.768 trillion pesos and shall prioritize shovel-ready infrastructure projects, investments in human capital development and food security, and climate change adaptation and mitigation, among others. Towards this objective, the social services sector, comprising education, social protection, and health, has been given the highest budget allocation with 2.1 trillion pesos or 36.7% of the national budget. Meanwhile, the economic services sector received the second highest allocation with 1.78 trillion pesos or 30.8% of the budget as the government continues to push for infrastructure development. This shall also support the agriculture and agrarian reform sector with 235.06 billion pesos as we reestablish the Philippines as a top exporter of agricultural products. With sustainable development in mind, the government will also invest heavily in climate change adaptation and mitigation measures with 457.41 billion pesos to ensure water sufficiency, ecosystem and environmental stability, as well as sustainable energy, among others. Infrastructure will also be at the center of administration's growth strategy. Hence, we are determined to maintain infrastructure spending at 5 to 6% of GDP over the medium term as set out in our MTFF. To achieve this, we have allocated 1.51 trillion pesos for the Build Better More program, which is intended for the construction and rehabilitation of road networks, railways, flood control infrastructure, school buildings, hospital and health centers, as well as irrigation systems all over the country. Over the medium term, 198 high-impact infrastructure flagship projects, which have estimated high returns on investments and sizable socio-economic impact, have been approved. This has an indicative total investment of 8.71 trillion pesos, which will be financed through various means, including public-private partnerships. Recognizing the important contributions of the private sector in promoting economic development, we have made strategic co-investments with them in financing 48 out of these 198 shovel-ready infrastructure projects. This will not only help boost financing, but also harness advanced technical expertise for infrastructure development. We are also committed to making the Philippines a prime investment hub through the implementation of economic liberalization reforms. The landmark Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentives for Enterprises or CREATE Act introduced the largest fiscal stimulus for businesses in the Philippine history. This lowered our corporate income tax rate to become comparable with our ASEAN peers. We are also establishing a more favorable investment climate in the country by welcoming greater foreign participation through the amended Public Service Act, Foreign Investments Act, and Retail Trade Liberalization Act. The easing of foreign equity restrictions aims to attract more foreign investors, modernize several key sectors, improve public service delivery, and generate more quality jobs. Alongside these developments, the Philippines continues to be recognized as a global leader in the open governance space with our transparency and digitalization initiatives at the forefront of many of our reforms. We have institutionalized the Philippine Open Government Partnership through Executive Order No. 31 Series of 2023, a first since the OGP was founded in 2011 and is unheard of in many countries, as it provides a solid legal framework to ensure that the open government principles of transparency and citizen participation are embedded in programs and policies at all levels and across national government agencies. Several reforms that promote digital transformation are also being pursued by the administration, including the adoption of the Integrated Financial Management Information System across all government agencies. Towards this agenda, the DBM shall be launching a digital budget management roadmap which contains strategies in promoting data governance and digitalization in fiscal-related government processes. Moreover, the DBM is also pushing for amendments to the decades-old Government Procurement Reform Act, which will digitalize and streamline the procurement process while paving the way for a greener and more sustainable, transparent, and participatory procurement process. One of the proposed amendments is the establishment of the electronic marketplace or e-marketplace, which aims to do away with the long, tedious government procurement process that has caused delays in the government's delivery of products and services. To ensure that inclusive growth reaches the farthest regions, a total of 80.60 billion pesos has been allocated as financial assistance for the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao this year. This includes its annual Black Grant, a special development fund for the rebuilding, rehabilitation, and development of its conflict-affected communities, and the region's share in taxes, fees, and charges. This shall also support the second Bangsamoro Development Plan 2023 to 2028 that outlines the priority trust of Bangsamoro government. As co-chair of the Intergovernmental Relations Body, the intergovernmental body which deals with the relations of the Bangsamoro and the Philippine national government, we continue to work hard for the economic transformation of BARM and to make Mindanao a shining example of peace and development in the country. These are just some of the programs, policy directions, and reforms that the current administration is working on to fuel our economic engines towards our agenda for prosperity and a bagong Pilipinas. a more future-proof and sustainable Philippine economy marked by resilient economic growth, lower poverty rates, manageable debt, increased infrastructure and human capital investments, more quality jobs for our people, and improved public services. Together with the rest of the economic team, we will ensure not only the attainment of our medium-term growth and fiscal targets, but most importantly, that the said growth will benefit the Filipino people, including the next generations. Again, thank you very much for this opportunity, and may you have a wonderful and productive forum. Wabillahi taufiq walidaya. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
We invite once more our columnist, Ben Kritz, to lead this time it'll be a one-on-one with our fifth speaker, Philip Dupuy. Some of you might know that Ben has a thrice-a-week column called Rough Trade, and he is also one of 4 people who writes the editorial for the Manila Times. He does have an advocacy for energy and sustainability, which he tries to explain in a more relatable term, or in more relatable terms, while at the same time he has a tendency to call out those who try to muddle up issues and perhaps might not quite be telling the truth. So, Ben, you have a few minutes to ring out the truth.
Thank you, DeFort. You actually did answer a couple of my questions during your talk, but if you don't mind, I'd just like to kind of tread over them again because they're important points. Concerning the GSP Plus, so it has been extended for another 4 years, so it will now be available until the end of 2027, correct? Okay. How is the EU working with the government to get more enterprises here to take advantage of it? Because I gathered that that's kind of a problem.
Yes, that's a problem. I mean, we think the GSP Plus is underused. Yeah. And one of the reasons or the main reasons, I think, is the lack of information about the EU market. Now, there's something natural about this, because the natural commercial partners of the Philippines are in the region and maybe the US. Europe is far away, right? And Europe always has this reputation. But we talked about red tape earlier, you know. I mean, it's also a domain in Europe, you know, of course. I mean, we heard from the World Bank. I mean, it's not only in the Philippines. Europe is red tape is a constant challenge as well. Yeah, so I think the people are sometimes intimidated by what they see as a strong regulation. We have strong regulation. On the other hand, it's a huge market, and quality products always will find their place on the European market. So what we are trying to do is we have a project which is trade-related cooperation. For this project, we try to bring Europe nearer to potential exporters, especially SMEs, because we're mainly talking about SMEs. We're not talking about the big semiconductor companies, which are the bulk of Philippine exports, but about the food industry in particular, hopefully also some small industries. And what the activity of the project is to business guides, develop business guides for Europe, seminars, but also help companies to make the products fit for the European market. So when we talk about foodstuff, of course, the SPS rules, the sanitary and phytosanitary rules.
Okay, along the lines of that, speaking of European red tape, I worked in Europe for a while, so I understand. But one thing I was curious about, the carbon border tax. To what extent, if any, may that be an issue that potential exporters here would have to worry about, either immediately or down the road?
So for the time being, the Philippines are not affected because they are not exporting products which are under the the sector covered of CBAM. So
right.
Of course, the product scope might be changed in the future.
That's what I'm
That's the concern is, right? Now we have to see, because what we also see is that the Philippines are thinking themselves about an emission trading system. Yeah.
Well, they're not thinking very hard about it at this point.
Well, it might come, but the point is, if this comes, because it comes also in other countries of the region, Vietnam is already much more advanced in these reflections, then, this offsets basically the CBAM. Yeah? And one has to go back to the reason. So sorry. Yeah.
Would the I hate to use the word threat, but that might be appropriate. Would the threat of CBAM help to catalyze the development of a carbon market here? Would that be something? Would that be a kind of meddling that the EU would be interested in doing?
Well, I mean, the motive of the CBAM was not originally to coerce other countries into the same policies, for a very simple reason. What happened was that if without the CBAM, our climate actions would be ineffective. Because if you have an emissions trading system and you have to pay for carbon certificates in Europe, well, what you could do is you just go and produce in a country which doesn't have priced certificates, and then you export back to the European Union. So the whole purpose of the CBAM is actually is a taxation on that. Now, if a country is already submitted to carbon pricing, this would be offset. Now,
it's a differential, correct?
It's a differential. Yeah. It's a differential, but it's a very interesting question, because one country in the region has asked me, we will have a emission trading system, but our carbon price will probably be lower than yours. Yeah, it's a differential. Yeah, that's the answer. Now the primary objective of that was not to coerce other countries to do the same. It was to simply make our measures effective, but there is an effect on that.
Right.
Sure.
Well, not coerce so much, but they would be encouraged to adopt this as a amelioration.
That's correct. I mean, I heard the word coerce in the past. That's why I want to put this straight.
Right.
Yeah. But yes, of course, it's an encouragement to
That's
look
a better
at
word.
Yeah. And I mean, our experience, and you can never just transpose experience elsewhere, but our experience has been that the ETS, the emission trading system, is actually the most effective way to deal with emissions, because it's a market mechanism. Yes, it's I think that the CBAM alone does not bring other countries to to install an ETS. Yeah, but as you say, it can be an additional encouragement. That's my impression. Yeah.
Okay. And I was intended to ask you about the EU-Philippines Free Trade Agreement, and I think you pretty well explained the status of that. So right now we're waiting for, within the next, do you have any idea when they may report on their analyses of them from the two sides?
Yeah, look, it's with our political principles on two sides. They have to decide on both sides. I mean, both sides have to decide whether this is in the interest. I think this will be pretty soon. We don't have to wait too long, I guess, in the next month.
Do you get the sense that from both sides, or from one side or the other, that there's a real urge to make this work? Of course they have to go through the process and what they're doing now, but they want it to happen, so they want this process to to come out well?
Well, I mean,
or are they taking it completely objectively? It's like, hey, let's just take a look and see, and maybe yes, maybe no.
No, it's not just take a look. I mean, the fact that we have entered into a stock-taking exercise alone shows that there's a strong interest from both sides to do that. Yeah?
Okay.
But, you know, the point is, and I said it in my presentation. I mean, there's the reason of the economic prospects of the Philippines, the market, the geopolitical aspects. There's the raw materials. There's many things that you can bring on the table on our side why this is interesting. It's also part of ASEAN. ASEAN is, you know, our third most important economic partner outside Europe. Not talking about Switzerland or Norway, but after the US and China, it's the third most important. So we cannot just go around this. Now, I cannot talk about the interest of the Philippines, but you know, I guess the GSP Plus and the strong likelihood that the Philippines will move up into an upper middle income category certainly will play a role. So, but the point here is, why are you still doing this type of stock taking? Simply because you need to see whether you have to exchange your mutual expectations, and you have to see, is it, despite the interest, is it technically feasible? It's a lot of resources that you put into such a negotiation. So you want to be sure that there's the reasonable expectation. You know, it will always take time, it will always have its difficulties, but you want to know where you are before you engage. I think this is what it's about, and this is what we try to get our last decisions about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to put you on the spot because it hasn't come up yet today. What is your take on the effort to amend the Constitution to attract more foreign investment as the tale is being sold to all of us? Is that a worthwhile use of the government's time, or are there other things that they should be applying that brain power to?
Yeah, okay, you want to put me on the spot, but I think you know my answer. No comment. This is an internal matter of the Philippines that the Philippines have to discuss and decide in their own interest. Yeah. We will do with whatever comes out of that, you know, whether there's a change or not. We will, but it's not something that we will comment on. This is really something that is purely a Philippine discussion.
Nice save.
I mean, you hoped something else, but
yeah,
sorry.
I'm just, it is too big a topic, I think, for us here, and there's a lot of things that we should be discussing, but I mean, that is our point of view. Others feel differently. A couple of the things that the Secretary mentioned in her address, particularly the retail liberalization, those kind of things. Has that in particular sparked any more interest from European enterprises? Has there been more people taking a look since those things have gone through?
Yes, we have seen. I mean, we have seen a regain of interest in the Philippines. It's very clear. And I mentioned it earlier. I mean, I think the opening on renewable energy, together with the Green Lane treatment for strategic investments, really has spurred an interest. So it shows that, you know, if there's this opening and there is support also in terms of the administrative processes, interest is going up. I mean, retail is a little bit more difficult, I guess, because, you know, also there's strong local actors here. And on public services, this is extremely interesting, and I think there we will see more coming in. But you always hear as well, you know, the issues linked to the right of way, for example, which is also a concern for the local companies. Yeah? And it's not about you know, not people should have their rights, but there's a titling issue in the Philippines historically, which makes it more difficult, more complicated, more complex. That's a fact. And but I think the problem here is, especially for if you want to come in as a foreigner, you know, the processes, the length you're planning is very difficult in that case. Yeah. So, but okay, I hear that the same concern from the companies here and from European companies, but they are interested and they want to come in. I mean, there's an immense potential. Also, a lot of catching up to do on infrastructure in the end. Mm-hmm. And this is very interesting. Yep.
Ben, last question.
Okay. All right. Well, then the one that's been on my mind for, that I'm probably going to ask our panelists here in a little bit. What do you see as a big risk? What's your black swan for this year? What is the thing that you hope doesn't happen but may, that could really upset things? I've heard certain suggestions. The U.S. elections, an increase in tension, in the Red Sea, something else. What do you see as something that everybody's not prepared for?
I could say many things, but I'm also a diplomat. But no, I think the real the risk is the further increase of the global tensions. It's very clear, and I think Europe currently is really in the middle of that, and is in a challenging position on this. So we have to see how that goes out. But we've seen, there's conflicts adding to what we already had now in Europe, in our neighborhood. So I think one of the worst things that could happen is further tensions, further conflicts, further disruptions.
Now, on the flip side, do you see any hope of those that you're in the middle of in particular? Do you see any hope of those easing or going away sometime during the year? Maybe particularly the one in the Middle East, since that affects your trade very badly.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there is always hope and there's always good movements. There's plenty of people trying to find solutions, putting a lot of energy into that. Of course, you hope. I mean, I cannot tell you now where the solution will be. I think we'll be getting rich if I knew it, but no. I mean, the point. I think the point of hope is that all around the world, people are trying to address these issues and to bring these tensions down.
Okay.
That should let us hope as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good note to end on. Okay, well, thank you for joining us and sharing your thoughts with us today. The Fort.
Thank you, Philip.
Thanks, Ben. Yeah.
Very well answered. We ask that you remain on stage as we call on our chairman and CEO and our president and COO to join you on stage. So we thank you, European Union Delegation Head Philip Dupuy. So with this plaque and token, our Chairman and CEO and our President and COO, thank you, Philip, for providing economic insights in our forum. A round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen. So Ben, may we ask you to remain on stage? We now call on our four panelists to join Ben on stage for our fireside chat. This is the last portion of our afternoon, just before our raffle. So please do stay tuned for that also. So in alphabetical order, our first fireside chat panelist holds several positions in BDO. He is president of BDO Capital and Investment Corporation, chairman of Averon Holdings Corporation, and is a board advisor of BDO Securities Corporation. Please welcome Eduardo Ed Francisco. And our second fireside chat panelist is a strong advocate of women empowerment and has chaired the Women in Business Committee of the European Chamber of Commerce in the Philippines. Formerly a regional director and head of project leasing for a Fortune 500 property consulting firm, she is now the CEO of the Lubien Realty Group. Please welcome Sheila Lubien. And our third fireside chat panelist currently holds various executive positions in Aboitiz Power Corporation-owned companies and subsidiaries. As president and CEO, he leads Aboitiz Power to pursue significant growth in its generation portfolio in the next 10 years, aiming for a 50-50 balance between renewable energy and thermal capacities. Please welcome Emmanuel Manny Rubio. And our fourth and final fireside chat panelist is a respected chairman emeritus of the Anvil Business Club, formerly known as the Association of Young Filipino-Chinese Entrepreneurs. He is also the chairman of the Trade and Industry Committee at the Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Incorporated. Aside from being the president of the Confederation of Garment Exporters of the Philippines, he is the director of the Integrated Development Studies Institute. Please welcome George C. Ben, you may begin.
Okay, thank you, DeFort. Do we have another microphone, or are we going to play? There we go. Okay, I think we're good. I get my own. Okay. Well, hi. We've heard a lot of positive things today, and I thought that a good way to start is just since you've sat here and listened to most of it, just real quickly, just share your impressions. Where do you think we're headed? Do you think the experts have it right? As far as the outlook for the economy, and what are some things that we should or should not be doing, to make this happen. Ladies first. Let's start with you, Sheila.
Thank you, Ben, and good afternoon, everyone. We've heard a lot of economic updates from the previous speakers this morning. So from the World Bank, from Department of Budget, BSP, and earlier from the EU perspective. And I shared their sentiments, quite positive. And us in the real estate sector, when the economy is growing, they're forecasting 5.8, 6% growth rate. That's good for us because I've shared in the past, the office market always closely, when the market is moving up, office market and the property sector will also follow. So that's good news for us. I'm excited to hear from Ed, the banking sector, because that would help the real estate market, the real estate sector also. If the interest rates will really go down, then that would fuel demand for not just the residential market, condominium, and hopefully also the office sector. Developers will borrow money again and build more projects, and it will benefit a lot of us here in the country. So positive for us in the real estate sector.
Yeah. Thanks, I'll volunteer to be the next. Yeah, I agree with Sheila. In fact, because I think the economy is going to do much better this year. And I will defer to Manny because he's the expert on power. We might even have brownouts, we'll see. And I hope that won't happen. I hope that it's not going to be a supply constraint because it's so sad, di ba? Parang we're going back to pre-pandemic, and then suddenly we won't have enough power, but that's another issue that Manny will tackle. But the banking sector, yes, is continuing to grow. The nice thing is in December, loan growth already grew faster. So that was already the signal. It's not just going to happen, it's been happening. So we expect it to continue. But I agree with Sheila, the sooner we bring rates down, although the economists and I guess Ragnar and our country directors were talking about it, there's a delicate balance between bringing rates down, right, and FX depreciation. But the sooner we bring it down, the sooner we can bring rates down so that people can amortize for their housing loans, right? Because it's really we're waiting for that signal. We were conservatively projecting September, but if it can happen in May, and as I mentioned also in the past, I don't care really if it's 50 or 100 basis points, even if it's a quarter basis points, but it's the signal that's important. As long as they signal, they will start bringing it down, that's good, and then demand will improve, and it should be good times for everybody. Now pass to the power man.
Thank you, Ed. Actually, earlier, to make sure that the messages are aligned, I asked Ed and Sheila, what's your forecast, right? So just to make sure that the messages are aligned. As far as the power sector is concerned, I'd like to make sure that everyone understands that there are three components in making sure that there's electricity, right? There's generation, there's transmission, and there's distribution. So when there are brownouts, it's not just generation. It may be caused by transmission issues or distribution issues, right? But I believe, we believe in Aboitiz Power, particularly in our contribution in terms of new capacities. In the short term, there will be enough capacity. Question is how much would that power be, right? Depending on the technology that will be clearing in the spot market for Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, as the spot markets are already operating, will determine, of course, the marginal price of power for those buying in the spot market. But there will be capacity, especially considering that GNPD will be accepted in full commercial operations for 1,300, close to 1,400 megawatts in the next, well, it's running now at 1,400, but we will be accepting it from the EPC in the next 2 months. And then Ilihan, the 1,200 megawatt gas plant that was transferred to San Miguel in 2022 and most part of 2023 was not operating. It's now operating, I believe, at around 900 megawatts. So those huge capacities are going to contribute. Plus, of course, the new renewable energies that are coming in, variable renewable energies that are coming in from the Aboitiz Power side. We are actually commissioning and already feeding to the grid around 110 megawatts of solar, and we expect that another 90 to 100 will be coming in the next 2 to 3 months. So in the short term to the midterm, there will be enough capacities. And then in last December, the co-optimized market started, which is the market for ancillary services for the reserves. It's showing price signals, no? And some are well serviced, meaning prices are low. That means there's enough supply. In some services, prices are quite high, which is giving signals to investors that, hey, it's time to invest in contingency reserves and regulating reserves, which we are now actually considering. And we've been asking for this market to be in operations for quite some time. So it's good that it's now in operation. So it's not just up to NGCP to contract ancillary services, but they can also now buy reserves from the spot market based on the grid requirements. So these are all positives. We are working closely with DOE. The industry is working closely with DOE and ERC to make sure that these efforts actually deliver what they're supposed to deliver. And recently, Meralco was successful in coming up with a CSP for 1,800 megawatts, which will start in December 2024. The new plant, the new gas plant of currently owned by San Miguel in Batangas. We won 300 of that supply from GNPD in Bataan and another plant by San Miguel, and those will be delivered in March 2025. So I guess with those developments, we will be able to to provide sufficient energy to carry us through in the next 2 years, and with new investments planned through the Green Energy Auction Program of DOE, I think we'll be able to get to that hurdle of the cyclical summer issues. No, although there's El Nino, but I think there's enough alternative technologies that can actually gap fill for the hydros that will have shortage in terms of generation by summer because of low water levels, particularly in the north.
Yeah, since I'd like to speak on behalf of the business community, since Ed has already promised lower interest rates, and the gentleman here has made sure that power will be with us. We agree that the prospects for the Philippines is the potential is very great and the positive is very great. There are ground issues to deal with. The processing and logistics is very weak in this country. If I might just give examples that everyone has experienced, even though we're saying we're an IT country, we can't have our driver's licenses in time, our license plates don't come out, and in the titling in the real estate, millions of title paper are not, they don't have enough of them in the millions. So it's going to be delayed by more than a year. So things like that, basic logistics we have to deal with. On the other hand, we do have issues, things that are both positive and negative. One is that it's very hard to hire people now. So I think it's true, the statistics, some people come out and say unemployment is very low now, and the other statistics show that it's very high. I'm trying to interpret this. I think that they define now that unemployment is based on who are looking for jobs. And I think that, maybe there's so many Filipinos getting good jobs, doing BPO, there's even an association with over 50,000 Filipinos that are getting jobs directly through the internet, not going through BPO companies. And that's growing fast. I'm feeling it in Batangas area. They're getting hired or just leaving and just working from home, not for companies, but directly. So so on one hand, that's a positive thing. On the other thing, the small and medium companies are running out of skilled employees to hire. So education is a very important aspect here. And then although we have all these people with skills that is integrating into the new economy, a lot of people are relying on these money makers, whether they're nurses or professors. The rest of the family isn't working. So we need more entrepreneurs to generate these types of jobs that are more generally employable in nature. Thank you. Agree with everybody. The prospects are there.
Okay. Well, now we'll maybe be a little less positive. Manny, I'll start with you. What do you see as like the big challenges this year for the energy sector as a whole and for Aboitiz in particular? Obviously I can think of many. One being the pushback to your plant expansion in Cebu, although I don't think that stopped you, and I hope it hasn't, but there's things like that going on, issues with the grid. What else?
I think one of the real challenges, as you raised it, Ben, is the ability to be able to put the right technology so that Philippines can have stable, reliable, and cost-effective power, right? We've been talking about a lot of discussions about renewable energy at all costs, right? Shift to solar, shift to wind, and yet what's not on the agenda, what's not being discussed is the impact of deep penetration of variable renewable energy into the grid, right? There must be a reason why they are called variable renewable energy, because they are variable. And to balance the variability, you need a stable source of energy, right? And what would that be? Gas or coal, right? We've been talking about putting solar panels, including ourselves. We have set ourselves a target of certain megawatts, although we won't be chasing megawatts. We would be chasing a balanced portfolio and making sure that the country is provided with the right technology for energy. The thing is, the main source of solar panels today and main source of wind turbines, cost-effective panels and cost-effective wind turbines is China. And for China to meet the demand of solar panels and meet the demand of wind turbines, they have to build 393 gigawatts of coal plants. So, they're building coal to build solar panels, to build wind, and yet we're buying them, right? So why should they be the ones to build coal and to provide renewable, competitive energy, reliable energy, and yet we're having difficulties building a coal plant, right? I think these things need to be considered. Although when we went to DOE, for example, and we presented the option, say, for Cebu and Mindanao are still islanded, even though there are connections between Mindanao and Cebu and Visayas and Luzon, because the connection is limited in terms of capacity. We said Cebu needs its own supply by 2026. Once a plant goes down in Cebu, diesel units are running in Cebu City, and they're expensive. So we want to make sure that there's a cost-effective supply. So we said, okay, what's acceptable, LNG or coal? But for 150 megawatts, it's difficult to justify an LNG facility that's cost-effective. And we showed the differential in terms of cost. No? That LNG at that time, when we presented it, would probably cost 2 pesos 40 centavos per kilowatt hour more. Said, well, we can do that, we can build that, but I don't think we can justify charging another 2 pesos 40 centavos more because it's LNG and not coal. Right? So these things are the ones that we need to really understand as Filipinos. Right? What we need to do is make sure that the country has enough capacity, right? Stable capacity, reliable capacity, cost-effective capacity to power the economy. I think that's what we need to do first and foremost. But we have to transition. There's no choice but to transition to cleaner technology, but it will take time, right? Let's not really go for renewable energy today at all costs. I think we will suffer if that's going to be the policy. We are feeling that already in terms of financing. We're feeling that in terms of Western financing, Western company insurance. No? It's difficult to find Western insurers at the moment for coal. No? And we're struggling. And it's getting to be very expensive. But that's the problem. They will at a cost, right? So, and we're the ones paying as well. So those are the challenges that that we have in terms of meeting the power that the economy will require, you know, to achieve our economic goals.
Okay. A particular question for you, Sheila. In the office space, one I believe the IMF presentation took note of the drop-off in the POGOs, and it was not unnoticeable that vacancy rates and everything have remained high after that. Of course, there were some other factors. And now there's a bill in Congress to ban them entirely, which would get rid of what's remaining. I don't know that those are such a big deal anymore, but we're hearing a lot about BPOs being affected by AI and maybe retooling their businesses and maybe retooling themselves out of the need for so much space. Is that something that you think is a possibility, or is it already happening? Are you seeing a shift in things, and do you think the real estate sector is able to keep up with how things might evolve?
A very good question, Ben. Well, in the office market, as shared, it's the biggest driver of demand is really the outsourcing industry. And the good news is BPO, outsourcing industry, is very strong and forecasting growth. Even the former BSP secretary mentioned that they are forecasting 8% growth annually. And in terms of number of full-time employees, currently the outsourcing industry is at 1.7 million. Though yes, affected, the office market is affected with this hybrid work from home, and therefore we see high vacancy rates. But when you compare 2023 versus 2022, we've seen a double in take up. So that's positive, that's good news. And we see another, higher take up this year. because we know that the Filipino-Chinese bosses, they want their people to go back to the office. So that would be probably an additional office demand. A lot of BPOs also are asking their people to be at least in the office 3 times a week. Therefore, there are a lot of BPOs, outsourcing firms right now, not just in Metro Manila, but outside Metro Manila, who are, again, expanding, if not expanding, relocating to, get a better office at an affordable cost, because many landlords today are flexible. They have a big vacancy, therefore they need to entice their tenants to stay by giving better terms or encourage new companies to relocate and get a better office at a much better rental compared to, in the past. And if you're not flexible today, then you lose occupiers, tenants. So those are somehow positive, at least for the office market. And though Pogo, you mentioned, they've left, we have a big vacancy right now because of the spaces that they have occupied pre-pandemic. Now they're slowly coming back, but not in a big chunk. We do not see that they'll come back in a big way. We see the big take-up coming from the outsourcing industry. And the forecast is that they will grow the number of employees, BSP and even the outsourcing industry, IT BPM industry. They're saying that their target is that by 2028, 5 years from now, they want to be at the 2.5 million number of full-time employees. So what is that? So easily, that's in terms of square meters, 5 million square meters. So hopefully in the next 3-5 years, the vacancy right now will be absorbed by that demand, plus the traditional companies who are coming here or expanding. Hopefully a lot of European companies will enter the market as well. And, barring the geopolitical concerns and so many other concerns that we have, we see that somehow the future is better and brighter. The office market, though experiencing some challenges, we see hope that the demand is getting stronger. Now, the residential market, as shared, we're waiting for the interest rates to go down so that more people can afford to buy properties, and developers also will borrow again and develop more projects all over Metro Manila. So that would be good for us.
Okay. Well, since Sheila mentioned the Phil-Chinese business community, I think you probably understand that better than any of us up here. What are the sentiments in among the Phil-Chinese business community? Now that the holiday is over and people are getting back to work, and we've also heard about China's economy and the effect that may have on the Philippines and the world in general. What is the sense from that business sector?
I think all the numbers in terms of growth and take up here are pretty good in most sectors, maybe except a few sectors like commercial real estate. Industry is growing, maybe not as much as we want, but it's growing, especially with the improvements in infrastructure in the last few years. I have to take a little on the side of the Aboitiz here. We want to point out the power. It's very important that the costs come down. I think a lot of the explanations and advocacies in power, they don't point out, as I understand from the Department of Energy, the actual utilization of power plants in solar is less than 20%. And you have to have backup power for that. That's not being pointed out. No? And if we also point out the cost of solar power is declining, generation is declining every year. Before they talk about power generation, cost is very low, but not the cost of the entire system. So one of the things we have to do when we do our economic analysis in the Philippines, we tend to isolate one factor or another. If we look at the entire ecosystem, so in power, they started out when they were proposing these tariffs at 1850, the charge per kilowatt hour of solar, and now it's dropped to 650 or so. I don't know, so well below 7 pesos. So since the cost of generation keeps coming down, at some point it may reach parity because both generation and storage in batteries is coming down. So things like that, we should analyze things in totality. The prospects are there a lot. What we need to look for, we don't need to look very much at a lot of other factors because Philippine economy is very much complementary to the rest of the world. If the US or Europe has problems, it actually grows our BPO industry, right? So things like that happen. It grows our OFW industry. So this is very major, but it's not a very stable fundamental structure of the economy. So looking at that, people are very positive, but another major factor to look at is stability, both domestic and geopolitically. That is a major factor as well.
Okay, well, let's talk about that then. Since you mentioned that, and you know, this is going to come up eventually, but domestically, what does everybody think of the charter change push? Yay or nay, or maybe something to think about and go about it a different way, or something to forget? How are you feeling? How about you, Ed?
Anyway, maybe I will quote Link's opening because I think he mentioned my name. I was in the Senate the other day and asked the same thing, but I think, and Philip was also there, right? But basically, we were saying that there's other low-hanging fruit. So if we can work on the other things like, I guess, the bureaucracy, the red tape, that we can, I guess there have been enough changes in the Public Service Act and things like that to open up the economy. It's just that challenges in doing business here is hard. So if that can be fixed, might have a better return for the time spent. So I think the other associations that I've been involved in have a similar view. It's not urgent, the economic cha-cha, but then if it happens, okay, why not? But I guess there's other things that can have a bigger impact for us.
Well, okay, like for the banking sector, what are some of the low-hanging fruits as it concerns your business?
No, from the banking sector, we have been competing against the foreign for so long because they allowed 100% foreign ownership of banks a few years ago, right? There were several entrants. So we are used to competing with the CIMBs, the May banks, etc. And our experience is that they cannot compete here. You still need the domestic network, so they have their niches, right? So it's not just because you're the biggest, you're the best. And same with us. We might be big here, but we know we're a small fish. But the problem in the banking industry, the industry as a whole is in better shape now. Of course, our capital is very strong. We were in a weaker position maybe 2-3 years ago because of COVID, because of a lot of our clients. We had to restructure, but now they're getting over that. So I think from an industry perspective, we're well positioned. But what will help us is really we want our customers to succeed. So what will make our customers succeed? You're right. If the interest rates go down, if their businesses if they're more optimistic, we hear a lot anecdotally from our customers that it's coming back already to pre-pandemic. We're seeing a lot of consumption, right? So if these things that Manny and George have mentioned happen, where at least the infrastructure is there, I guess one critical thing we're looking at is the execution risks of the government, because we have a fiscal problem, right? In a way, limitation. We cannot borrow as much as during the previous administration. We want to make sure that all these PPP programs get executed, because that's the way of getting investments in. We want them to be executed well. We don't want a lot of complaints or things brought to the court. That way, at least it just continues to happen. So those things are signals. So hopefully those will be good signals, so that at least the European, the North American investors will come in and then look favorably for the Philippines.
Ben, perhaps we can have closing statements.
Okay. All right. Well, as a final thought, what do you think of that, Manny?
Honestly, Ben, we haven't really put much attention to it as a power company. I think there are more issues, pressing issues that we are focused on, dealing with regulatory, dealing with growth, dealing with execution of our new power plants. Well, in most cases, the ones that are being addressed by charter change to make it more investment friendly. I think DOE has allowed already a number of those provisions in terms of investing in power in the Philippines. So no, again, personally, I haven't really given it much thought.
Well, what's the one or two big things, like a single thing that the government should be working on to boost the power industry this year?
I think what the government should really focus on is to make sure that they come up with policies that's first and foremost to address the energy requirement of the country, right? Addressing availability, addressing reliability, addressing cost, right? There really is a need to transition to cleaner technologies, but it should not be at all costs, right? It should address a balance, and we've always been saying that Avoidance Power has always been focused on providing and coming up with a balanced portfolio, because we need baseload plants like coal and gas, right? Both carbon emitting. Some are saying gas is cleaner. It is cleaner in terms of combustion, but extracting gas is also a different matter, right? So I think with those in mind. It was mentioned that solar initially was 8 at 18. I think the first price for solar is around 9 pesos. That was the FIT price at that time. And now with the green energy auction pricing, I think the last ceiling was at 440. So you can just imagine the effort of the industry to bring down rates. But the problem is, you're only talking about the peso per kilowatt hour when solar is generating power. But then what happens when there's no more sun? Right. So then you have to come up with a balancing power plant to meet that. And if you just come up with a balancing power plant to provide power when solar plants are not generating, then you're also underutilizing that capacity that you're investing on to just fill the gap when solar is not there. So I think instead of discussing levelized cost of electricity when variable renewable plants are generating, and that's always unfortunately, that's always been the numbers that's coming up. No, it's cheap because when it's generating, it's cheap, there's no fuel. But what if when it runs out, when it's not producing anymore, you need something to put there, right? And that should be in the equation when you compute for the full cost of electricity. So instead of levelized cost of electricity, it should be full cost of electricity. And you'll be surprised that wind and solar probably are two of the most expensive.
Yeah, well, I know that. We'll talk about that more another time. Sheila, how about you?
Well, I'm interested to hear from Manny if the cost of power here in the Philippines will really go down, because as a real estate consultant, our clients are mostly the outsourcing firms. Last year, the record was what, $36 billion US. So it's a big revenue. It's a big market for the country. And most of them, they're complaining about the electricity cost in the country. So those are some of the challenges that they have. Aside from, of course, the talent, upskilling. They want to hire more people, and we have the talent. That's good news for the country. Very young population. Almost everyone can speak English. So the challenge now is really to upskill so that, we hear about this AI and all that. So they said they will definitely not replace human, but we have to improve the education system here in the country so that they can hire more talent, and the higher value work, meaning higher paying jobs, also will be created for the Filipinos. And hopefully the business owners, these investors will expand here, and the cost of power also will help them, get more space, more office, more residential requirements as well.
Okay. George, I'll let you have the last word.
Yes, I'd like to, frequently when there are industry forums or business forums, I think important industry is frequently not brought up. It's your industry, the media. It's very important because you're like the radar, and I think all the people here appreciate the objectiveness and the openness and the frequency with which you hold this, because you are the radar, you're the light that shines on the different sectors and helps guide the country. So congratulations and thank you.
Well, thank you for that. I think we all work very hard to do our best, and that's encouraging. We'll keep trying. Okay, I think that's about all the time we have.
So thank you very much to all our panelists. Let's give them a round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen. We call on Sir Klink and Ms. Blanca on stage once again to join our panelists. Once again, thank you, BDO Capital President Ed, Lobian Realty Group CEO Sheila, Aboitiz Power President and CEO Manny, and IDSI Director George. Thank you for wrapping up our discussion today about the economic state of the country. So with these plaques and these tokens, our Chairman and CEO and our President and CEO, thank you for being panelists of our Fireside Chat. Thank you everyone for staying this long, and now we're going to be awarding or raffling out the gift certificates. We have 10 of these worth 15,000 pesos, courtesy of Mega World Hotels and Resorts. You can exchange, you can avail of these in any of the, throughout the country, any of their locations. So may we please call on Ms. Claire Bernabe, Director of Customer Experience and New Ventures of Mega World Hotels and Resorts. She will be the ones to please join us. So may we ask help from some of our account managers in terms of being able to provide our gift certificates? So for those who do receive the gift certificate, please pass by table 9 just to sign off that you were the one who received it. Thank you. So Ms. Claire, please join us. I will hand to you the award.
All right.
Good afternoon, everybody, and congratulations to the Manila Times. All right, I'd like to say congratulations to the senior manager from Lobien Realty Group, Ms. Jocelyn Sacro.
Congratulations. So once again, these are all 10 of these are worth 15,000 that you may avail of in various locations across the country. Oh, please may we ask that you have a picture together. So book your stay in Savoy Hotel Manila, Savoy Hotel Boracay or Mactan, Belmont Hotel in Manila, Boracay or Mactan, Eastwood Richmond Hotel Ortigas, and Richmond Hotel Iloilo.
Thank you very much. So once again, from the Mega World Hotels and Resorts, congratulations to Ms. Vega Faria Postrano from BPI.
Congratulations. Do we have, are you present now? So after you receive your gift certificate, please pass by table 9 for signing off.
All right, our next recipient. All right, I'll say congratulations, Attorney Elias Omar Sana from Huawei.
Huawei?
Going.
So you have to be here, you have to still be present to be able to claim the prize, otherwise it will be forfeit.
Okay, our next winner is from DS Flower Shop. We have Ms. Dina de la Paz Stalder. Is she
None?
here? Okay, next one.
Better chances for those who are still here.
We have Miss Myra Miranda. Got it all, marketing.
Congratulations. And thank you for staying.
Okay. All right, our next winner is from Media Blitz PR Consultancy, Miss Janile Caberte.
Congratulations.
We invite you on stage, please. Congratulations for Mega World Hotel.
So that's 5 so far. We're halfway done.
They're gonna take your phone.
Or we still have 5 chances for you.
All right, our next one congratulations to Ms. Charmaine Albachete from the Chamber of Real Estate and Builders Association.
Reba.
Is she here? Okay. Well done. Thank you very much. Our next lucky winner is from Eaton Properties Philippines Inc., Mr. Julius Vicente.
Congratulations, Mr. Vicente. So that's 6.
Okay.
Mr. Julius
We
Vicente
have a
from
few
Eton.
more gift certificates. This is from, okay, well, congratulations to Ms. Ana Marie B. Francisco from Ferino.
Going up the stage.
We have 3 more gift certificates. And our lucky winner is from First, Justin K. Ocampo. Congratulations.
Congratulations first.
Going. Okay, we have a winner.
Congratulations, Justine Ocampo from First.
All right, thank you. Okay, 2 more.
Last 2. Keep your fingers crossed.
And our winner is from Apple Tree Productions, Mr. Rick Manzano.
Over there on the right. Congratulations, Mr. Manzano. So for our last gift certificate, could we have the drum roll for one last time?
Okay, from Perfect Cone Realty, Miss Claire Ann Manalo.
Is Miss Claire still present, still with us?
Another one?
Another one, it seems. Drum roll, please. The table here, there's still a chance.
I have Mr. Antonio Aniceta Jr. from Royal Care.
Congratulations. Thank you, Miss Claire Bernabe, and thank you, Mega World Hotels and Resorts for the gift certificates, raffle prizes for today's forum. So we're grateful to all of you for joining the conversation about the economy titled Insights 2024 Immersive Generative Globalization. On behalf of the Manila Times, thank you very much and have a great day ahead.
Sign up for a year for only 80 pesos per month. Visit tmt.ph/premium to get your free trial of the Manila Times Premium.
Always advancing. Always transforming. The world moves fast. BDO finds ways to move with the changing times. Always thinking ahead, ensuring that your financial needs are met. Whenever, wherever. Always leading the way, investing in tomorrow, and creating a sustainable future. Always the way forward. BDO, we find ways.
Wow, immortal? Sa movies lang yan. Kaya dapat handa ka. Protect them with BDO Life Insurance. Convenient. Ang dali lang dahil ikaw ang superhero ng buhay nila. Get a Plan B with BDO Life.
Aboitiz Power has been driving change for a better world. It It's been a long and challenging road, but with every step forward, we've made sure the businesses and communities we serve have been able to grow and flourish. We envision a world where vibrant communities have built their homes and businesses in a thriving environment. To make that world a reality, we are committed to serving the people by providing a reliable power supply at a reasonable and competitive price, while taking on the responsibility for the growth, wellness, and prosperity of the environment and the many communities that rely on us. Over the many decades we've been around, we've watched the world shift and change, and our success to this point has come, in part, from our constant desire to grow and innovate. The adoption of newer, more efficient, and more effective technologies in the name of progress is a part of who we are and why we're here to stay. Here at Aboitiz Power, we greatly respect the value and importance of the environment. Cleanergy, our brand for renewable energy sources, has become a significant part of our operations, and we continue to be on the lookout for opportunities in the renewable energy space while seeking ways to preserve and enrich the environment. We've long since recognized the incredible potential for kindness, compassion, and community in the millions of lives we've touched over our centuries-long journey. We take great pride in the care and service we provide to these people. To see their communities thriving is our greatest joy and success. Aboitiz Power, driving change for a better world.
MegaWorld Hotels and Resorts is the largest hospitality chain in the Philippines. Each of its 6 diverse brands offer a distinct personality to cater to the needs of today's savvy traveler, whatever their purpose for travel may be. With a promise of enriching the travel experiences of its guests, MegaWorld Hotels and Resorts celebrates a unique culture of service excellence, fueled by warm and heartfelt service that Filipinos are best known for. Committed to providing every guest with unparalleled hospitality, the brand continues to innovate, curating meaningful experiences, building relationships, and inspiring travels while offering you the joys of being home. MegaWorld Hotels and Resorts. Our heart, your home.